Hey guys, my name's Deborah B, and I wanted to do a little story time about my PCOS and fibroid journey. Mostly, I would say fibroid journey. Sorry, I'm getting bit by something. And I'm also running my dogs. We come here every single Sunday to this warehouse area. It's pretty much vacant for the most part on Sundays. And people are pretty cool about watching for my dogs when they see them. So I love it here. This is my paradise. There used to be buffaloes here on this property. Used to be buffaloes, but then some big developers came in and plowed the land. Well, they sold the land, plowed the land, and then turned it into this warehouse area. But to me, it still has really good energy. I love coming over here. And so yeah, so my name's Deborah B. I own a hydroponics company now. As you can see in my last video, I talked about how well, in my very first video, sorry, not last video, because my last video is a farm tour, but in my very first video, I talk about how I fell into selling microgreens and why, because I just was not really into it. But I do want to talk about my PCOS journey and my fibroid journey, because I feel like maybe there are women out there that could benefit from this, what I went through. And I know one of my biggest hangups with fibroids was pretty much figuring out whether or not I should get surgery. I ultimately had to get surgery. I got a laparoscopic myomectomy because my fibroids were so bad. But I basically want to start from the beginning while I'm out here hanging with my dogs and just go through my story and hopefully in some way help you understand maybe you'll be able to understand yourself better or what you're going through better with my story. Okay, so in 2017, I got very kind of weird. Like, I wouldn't say that I was like dying or anything like that, but I would definitely say my energy levels were a bit more challenging. So I started to have issues with basically feeling energetic enough. So my tolerance of people and spaces and places began to diminish. And I noticed that I was starting to get more and more and more and more of like a short temper. So I just thought that I needed like healing or whatever. And I was already going through like what some people would call a spiritual transformation. And I had started reading like, like certain books, like I watched The Secret, was watching Brian Tracy, Lisa Nichols. Oh my God, I loved her. And I started learning about Mind Valley. What's that guy's name? Just Googled it. His name is Vishen Lakhiani. And I read Miracle Morning. So I was going to the gym and like trying to get really, really fit or whatever. And I started to notice a difference in my health, but I was still, sorry y'all, hold on. Let's let this plane go over. I was doing better, right? So I started getting energy, was going to the gym, lifting weights, got strong, blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward to 2018 and I met this guy and he was like, I think you have some issues because you're napping a lot. You always seem tired. He's like, I know that you work a lot, but it just doesn't really make sense. And so he was telling me like, you should probably really focus on your adrenals. And I was just like, I don't need help with my adrenals. I'm fine. But then I did notice that I was drinking so much coffee, so many energy drinks, and I was just having, y'all, a horrible time. I wasn't doing very well. I was doing pretty bad actually, and I just thought like, sorry, my allergies, y'all. I just thought, okay, I'm just tripping, right? But then fast forward to, let's see, the end of 2020, because 2020, I know a lot of people had a bad year, and I do want to respect the people who lost family members and friends and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying that 2020 wasn't hard, because it was. I lost a lot of customers, including dogs. I lost a lot of dogs in 2020 to pneumonia, and I lost a lot of clients. Like, they passed away, and I haven't cried that much in 1 year, but y'all, 2020 was rough. And so I ended up having a decent year in 2020, but I just was always tired. Like, I just thought I was working a lot, but I started sleeping more and more and more, and needing more and more coffee and more energy drinks. I was slamming Celsius down like I had a brand deal with them. Okay, so another airplane. Sorry, y'all. The plane is gone. So basically, into 2020, I noticed drop. I noticed that I was just like not doing good. Yo, like, I was doing really bad. And so I was just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I just started like not being able to groom as many dogs. I started not being able to lift as many dogs, and I just really wasn't sure what was going on. And I had just started talking to a new guy, and we, we're hanging out and cool, but I noticed just like how tired I always was, right? Like, I was just always tired. So probably around January, I had a lot of issues with pooping, peeing. This is TMI, y'all, I'm sorry. But I had trouble pooping, peeing, and I was very exhausted. And then one day while I was at work, my whole family had come up because my sister owns the company that I work for. And it was late one night. She and I had been like grooming so many dogs. And then I got like really tired that one day. And I was just like, I can't believe I can't groom that many dogs. And she was just like, are you sure you're okay? And I was like, no. So I laid down on the table. My mom and both my sisters were there. And they were like, I was like, I feel something like in the bottom right quadrant of my stomach, like in my abdomen. I was like, I don't know what it is. So I felt this pain in the bottom, I felt this lump in the bottom right quadrant of my pelvic area. And I was like, bet, like, I'm sick. There's something going on. This is crazy. I'm gonna go to the doctor and get it all figured out. So I was nervous because I was like, ooh, what if it's like cancer or something? But then I also was like, I'm a strong person. I could do this. I used to be in the military. Even though I was in the military, I played saxophone, but hey, they still build mindset, right? So, y'all, like, go to the doctor, go to multiple doctors in the ER, in and out of the ER for the next 4 months. People kept trying to tell me that I was pregnant. I even went to an emergency room. I went to Medical City, Plano, which is where I was born, actually, 35 years ago. And they told me that I had a ovarian cyst, that I had multiple ovarian cysts, but I had one that was probably really large, and it must have popped because I had felt like this abrupt pain. And so I was like, oh, okay. He was like, you got fibroids, but they're not really anything to worry about. This is what the emergency room doctor did after doing an MRI on me. He told me that I really didn't have much to worry about. So I'm like, am I tripping? Like, am I going crazy? And then I was going to other urgent cares because I started peeing blood and I could not poop. And when I did poop, my poop came out like really thin, and I was just like, oh my God. So basically I had, I was just like, oh my God, what is going on? And I know I'm not pregnant. Like, I just met this new guy, and the other guy that I had been with, like, there's no way, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, why they're telling me this. So I end up finally like going to my old OB. I was looking for a new one, but I couldn't find one. Okay, so I start using an OB that I was using prior, like a couple years before. And I go back to her because I'm kind of irritated at this point because I'm just like, no one caught this. But so anyway, I go to her and she's like, oh, you know, it's probably not that bad. Your stomach's not that distended. I have women who come in that look like they're 8 months pregnant. She was like, but you're definitely not pregnant. And I was like, I know, after 4 pregnancy tests that were administered to me, I know that I'm not, but it's okay. I just wanted to trust the professionals. So I basically finally go in. My ex at the time is in the room with me and my sister, because they were like, I was so nervous at that point and so tired all the time that I literally couldn't make sense of it. So let me tell you, let's talk about the exhaustion. So my hair was incredibly thin. My body felt like it was breaking down, and I was always in pain, like always pulling muscle spasms, always having issues with sleepiness. I'd have to come home and take a nap. So I would literally get off work, have to come take a nap, and feel like I'm dying. I went from doing so many dogs a day to like half the amount. And then on top of that, I was just like not even able to make enough money really to cover my bills. Luckily I had savings, but going in and out of the doctor's offices to the emergency rooms and things like that, like, oh my God, I was just really struggling. So I finally got it to the point where my family was advocating for me when I went into the doctor's office, because I was so sick and tired and exhausted all the time. They felt like I wasn't comprehending what the doctor was telling me, and I was also so nervous because they finally realized that like something major was going on. And the catalyst was when I finally went to the OB and she tried to check inside, you know, the vaginal search or whatever to do, or the vaginal insertion. And she did the vaginal, like, she tried to do the vaginal. She couldn't go do anything. Like, I screamed and almost passed out. And then she was like, oh, okay, we have an issue. And then my ex was like, we got to get this fixed. And I was like, I need a sonogram. At that point, I was just like, I need a sonogram. I need to know what's going on. I need you guys to look and figure this out. So they go in and they look, and they discover that I have 8 fibroids, probably possibly more, which I did. I had one other one, but it was really, really tiny. And they were just like, oh yeah, you got a problem. And then she finally takes me seriously, which made me so mad, you guys. Like, oh my God, I was so mad about it. So they finally take me seriously, and I'm telling her this all has to have been pushing on like my stomach and doing issues, causing problems with my nerves and stuff like that. And she was like, no, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't think. She didn't want to take responsibility for not believing me all those months, and then knowing that like I was going through pain because she wasn't listening. I feel like sometimes when you're in your profession for a long time, you get desensitized to what people say, just because you've been doing it for so long, but you still have to have compassion in your industry regardless. So basically, the sonogram showed that I had one huge, massive one. So she finally had me get my paperwork from the doctor's office, which I did. Or I'm sorry, from the emergency room from long ago when I went to Medical City, when that emergency room doctor told me that my fibroids and my cysts weren't that big of an issue. Yeah, they were. Yes, they were. So one of the scariest parts for me when I opted for a laparoscopic myomectomy was she basically told me that I wouldn't know when I wouldn't, there was a possibility that I'd have to get a hysterectomy, but they weren't 100% sure until they did the surgery. And then once I woke up would be when I would know. So that was terrifying. And so during this process of finally getting a proper diagnosis, I finally like started the payment process on all of the doctor bills and stuff like that. So I blew through my savings within a matter of months, like literally savings gone. Was planning on buying a house. Yo, that did not happen. Like, I did not buy a house. Barely was able to pay for my car and my apartment. And at that point, I started to understand that my relationship was becoming toxic, because the person that I was with at the time was just not a good person at all. And they lied about everything from their job to just a lot. It was very stressful. It was a very stressful time to be sick and then dealing with someone who was very, very toxic. But I think because I was so sick, I wasn't able to make those like dead on decisions that I normally make. And so I put up with a lot, because even though he was not a good person, he was there for me when I was sick. But it's made me sicker because my cortisol levels were so high, I could not get healthy. So I ended up getting the surgery done. I had 8 fibroids. I had 8 fibroids. And they were so bad. One was the size of a baby's head. And I will post pictures, because I did ask my surgeon to video record. I'll post pictures, so if you're squeamish, like, skip through. Just skip through. But we're just going to do a little thing where I show you guys my fibroids. So I had one that was the size of a baby's head. And then I also had one that looked a little sketch. So they sent that one off to biopsy. It came back cancer-free. Whoo, hallelujah. And then I ended up having a laparoscopic myomectomy, which means that I got an entire cesarean cut.
Okay, you guys, this is me first thing in the morning with no food on my stomach. This is how big my stomach was, and people always asked me if I was pregnant or expecting. And if I was any bigger, they were ready for me to pop. It was crazy. Here I am at the hospital with my mom and my oldest sister. Purple was my favorite color, so I felt like that was a sign. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, this is me here. And now the graphic images are about to come up. So if you are squeamish and you do not like gross stuff like me, please, please, please go ahead and skip forward. All right, so this is the one they thought was cancerous, got it biopsied, came back clear. This is the one that was the size of a baby's head, and this is the one that did the most damage to my muscle tendons in my bottom right quadrant. This is all of them side by side. They even measured them for me, and oh gosh, looking at them, they do look pretty gross. But yeah, these are the fibroids that they took out.
So because of the biggest fibroid and me getting the cesarean cut, it took a lot longer in the operation room than they thought it was going to take. I think it was only supposed to take like 45 minutes tops, but it ended up taking 4 hours. My mom was very concerned, but luckily I didn't lose a lot of blood. I did have to sign up for a blood transfusion, but I was really blessed, you guys. I did not even have to get that, but I did. Those things were massive, and they cause a lot of muscle damage in my lower quadrant on my right side. So I have a lot of issues still from the pain, and there are still the surgery, the incision, I still can't feel that area. They said I would be able to feel it in 9 months. It's been since 2021, and I still cannot feel. I got my surgery in April of 2021, and I still cannot feel the incision. It is still weird. But they did a good job. It looks pretty. I'll say that. It's a pretty incision. It didn't keloid up or anything like that, but my gosh. So anyway, a lot of muscle tissue damage happened, and then I still had complications even after the surgery. I'm not going to go into some details about the complications, because some of it, like, I just don't want to go into it, because it mentally, it took a lot, especially like when I went to a certain hospital and they were trying to cover for certain people, and it's just like, I'm not going to go into it. I'm not. But I will say that it was a lot to recover. So for the first year, I still had trouble like walking and dealing with bumps, and working out was almost impossible. So my weight blew up, y'all. I gained so much weight. Plus I was in a very stressful, toxic relationship, and I was not eating healthy, y'all. I was not eating healthy. I was so like silly in my approach, but I was so depressed and sad after the surgery, because the pain, you guys, like, just thinking about it, it makes me want to cry. But the pain was so bad. Then I was having family issues, and I was in so much debt, y'all. Like, I had to really go through, you know, and every time I think back about it, I'm like, girl, you were strong, because I don't know how you made it through that, but I did. I'm a Cancer, y'all, so I cry easily, but I struggled. I really did. So I went into a ton of debt, and was like really sick, but I had also decided that I was going to start my own business. I don't know why I did that, but I did. Anyway, it was really successful. I started an in-home business. I moved to downtown Dallas, which was not the best decision. And then I love downtown Dallas. Don't get me wrong. I do want to move back. But at that time, it was not the best decision. We ended up moving into a penthouse because my business started doing really, really well. But part 2 happened. The part 2 of that was I got sicker. Like, I was doing really good after the surgery for a little bit, but for like a small amount of time. Like, my weight blew up, I got depressed, but then I started to decline very fast. I got sick again. So the straw that broke the camel's back was I was going to a client's house, fell up the stairs, almost passed out, and then I just did not do a good job with that groom, and I ended up going home that night and didn't wake up till like the next day around like 2. I had to cancel all my clients, and then for 2 to 3 weeks I could not like do anything. I was so sick. So I was in and out of the emergency rooms again. I was like, oh my God, I got fibroids again. They did another sonogram, tested me for all this kind of stuff, did blood tests, did blood work, all the things. And they could not figure out what was going on. And I only had one fibroid that was the size of a pea. At this point, I was very, very sick. And my primary doctor couldn't tell me what was going on. And nobody could tell me what was going on. Not even the emergency room doctors. Like, everybody was just like, we're stumped. We don't know. It could just be psychological, blah, blah, blah. But then I noticed my facial hair, which I still am battling. It grew in so bad, y'all. I'm ashy. Woo! My facial hair grew in. Started looking like a man a little bit. And I started having issues with my hair being super thin. Like, I ended up dyeing the parts of the hair that was super thin because it was like really, really bad. And I was like, if it breaks off, that's great, and then I'll just chop it off later. But hair went super thin, body was breaking down, I was super exhausted and tired, nobody could tell me anything. So I started doing my own research and was like, I'm gonna heal my body, forget it. Like, I'm not going through what I went through, I'm not getting on a bunch of meds, I'm not getting on just birth control, excuse me, haven't had any kids at all, like, whatever. So that's when I started doing my research. And that's when I started learning about how great I am at truly growing food. Started growing microgreens, sprouts, started eating those. And then I started dibbling and dabbling in other things like avocados and stuff like that. And I realized that I found my calling, growing food and helping people at the same time who are going through what I'm going through or went through, and, you know, still going through, because PCOS is a bit of a challenge. You can definitely moderate it. I don't know if you can 100% heal, but you could definitely moderate it. So I basically began to go on my journey of personal healing. So with all that said, I want to bring you guys along the journey to experience this new life that I'm embarking upon in 2025. I feel like I'm finally healed physically, mentally, spiritually. I still have work to do, but I believe that the work will be never ending, and I'm all about self-help and self-growth. I know some people don't always believe in that, but I do, because if you would have met me back in 2014, you would have been like, girl, I literally had so many mental health issues and I've come so far, and I'm so proud of that. But if you'd like more information on just basically like how to help heal your body with growing food, you can check out my ebook below. And I'll also be bringing out a lot more information in regards to PCOS, fibroids, and things of that nature. Because I really do have PCOS. Like, y'all, I really, like, it's a thing. But I am healing from it, and I'm working through so much. And it's taken me over 3 years to really get to the point where, like, my body feels healthy and good, and I can wake up and I can jump and I can feel good and do all the things. And, you know, I lost a lot of weight. This shirt actually used to be too tight, and now it's like too big. So I'm just really happy. I know that I've come so far. I'll be on TikTok a little bit, but not that much. And I'll also be on Substack. So YouTube, Substack, Pinterest, and a little bit of TikTok is where you'll be able to find me. But yeah, I'm so excited. I hope that you guys can definitely are interested in joining along on this journey, and there will definitely be more to come. And if you also want to check out my hydroponic systems, I got those linked below as well. But thank you guys so much for your time. I hope this video helps somebody. Please reach out to me if you need help or have any questions about my journey, and maybe it syncs up with your journey, I'm not sure. And if you guys want me to explain more in depth about how I healed, let me know, and I can do part 2 to this video. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. Be sure to follow and subscribe and hit that like button. And if you want to get all the latest videos, hit the notification. And yeah, I wish you guys all the best. Bye.